Breaking news. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has confirmed that precision and primitive strikes were carried out on Iranian nuclear facilities and targeting military personnel. According to the state-controlled television channel, Press TV, the Commander-in-Chief of Islamic Revolutionary Guard, Hossein Salami, was killed during Israel's strike on late Thursday night. In response, Israel has declared the state of emergency across the country and remains on high alert, anticipating potential retaliation from Iran. Civilians have been instructed to stay close to bomb shelters, and the IDF has actually stated that it is the first wave of their operations and that Israel defense forces are fully prepared to defend the nation if Iran tried to escalate. So let us hear what the Prime Minister of Israel, from the horse's mouth, what he has to say concerning these military operations. And earlier on, Iran has also threatened that if it happens that Israel strike its nuclear facilities, they will be able to retaliate and strike the U.S. military bases in the region. So tune in this video and hear what the Prime Minister has to say from the horse's mouth, and let me hear your thoughts as this escalation. Can this trigger escalate a war in the Middle East and instability? So let us hear your thoughts. Tune in.
Months ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working.
So we have heard this, that, Leland, you had it perfectly accurately. But why now? It's still a why now. They were going to speak this weekend. Everything that the Prime Minister just said would have been true. And the only reason I say that question, and then you can tell me who wants to field it, I'll go to you, Mr. Hulata, is that the President of the United States had been pretty clear that he wasn't ready for it to go this way at this time. So what does that mean about, how important it is that the Prime Minister communicate or has already communicated things were farther along than we knew? Because what the Prime Minister just said there doesn't suggest any particular urgency.
Well, what the Prime Minister suggests there, I think, is that there is coordination between Israel and the United States. And again, I'm in Washington. I've been following the messaging here in Washington throughout the week. And there is an assumption in what you said, which I have to say I thought was as well, that there is going to be another round of negotiation over the weekend, and President Trump would want to see if he can get a better deal out of Iran. Maybe this isn't the case. Maybe President Trump reached an understanding that he does not want to continue to negotiate with the Iranians, and maybe he knew what was in the response of the Iranians and made a decision that this is not the course of action to go. I don't know this, right? I'm not in the loop. I'm not a national security advisor at the moment. I sit in Washington and I, as do you, feed off what I see in the press. But when I listen to Prime Minister Netanyahu, there is a clear underlying message there that he is coordinated with the Americans, and I would be very much surprised if that wasn't the case.
ADM, can I get you in here about what this sounds to you? Where is Aaron David Miller, by the way? Can't have him because he's not here. But if we get him back, let me know. But Mick, I'll go to you on it then.
Chris, I just want to answer this point. The Prime Minister's statement was more than 7 minutes long, and I think you're right to point out that the Israelis are going to have to say at some point, and I see Matty along, and answer that question, why now? It is beyond uncanny the kind of intelligence and penetration the Israelis have into Iran and viewpoint. Remember, they stole all the Iranian nuclear documents a few years ago. They were able to target and know where each one of these generals was living. They were the ones who hid the bomb 3 months earlier before the Hamas guys showed up inside Iran. The one thing I learned in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't play checkers, he plays chess. And probably nobody understands American politics and the American media better than Benjamin Netanyahu does. And we saw that after October 7th. I remember how the IDF used to put out all those animations, and they would all of a sudden, we'd hear about the IDF doing something, and then a couple of days later, they would release the intelligence behind it. Mick, you nodded along. I think you would agree that there's more promised here from Israel.
No, I think that's the exact question they probably got asked by Marco Rubio, even by President Trump. He's like, look, why now? We were supposed to have a meeting on Sunday, and I think Leland's right. There's going to be an answer to that coming out in the next 24 hours as to what happened, why it happened tonight. Again, I go back to the fact that they've been talking about this in Washington, D.C. for the last several days. We've already, for example, you know the reporting about us moving folks out of embassies and so forth. I believe Donald Trump got asked at a presser earlier this week about this likelihood, and he didn't dismiss it like, oh, that was never going to happen. I think his answer was sort of like,
he said it could be imminent.
Exactly. So there's something out there, Leland's right, that happened in the last 3 or 4 days that led us to where we are tonight. We'll know in the next 24 hours what that was.